yesterday's race, so I think it bodes well for the shorter distance today of 7.5 kilometers. So under starters orders, the teams all lined up there. 11 teams lined up. Of course, 2 of those teams are second team for Sweden and Germany. So 30 seconds to go. The athletes have carried out the warm-up. They know the tracks well now after 2 days of previous racing. It's the same tracks, slightly shortened. Look today at 2.5 kilometers. So here we are ready to unleash. The pace is going to be fast and furious from the start. There's a little descent from when the gun goes, and then it's the very, very steep climb of the Brigsteig, which goes up to the highest point. Here we go. So they're off. A good clean start there, no problems, and unlike yesterday when 53 of the women's field went out on a mass start, this will feel very easy today. 11 teams, no traffic jam.
I think a little bit less hectic, absolutely, out of the start there. So as we said yesterday, I do find it quite an interesting start because you're straight into this downhill, which you don't see so often. So that does lead to even with 11, there's still a little bit of pushing and shoving going on there, and Svan choosing to, there she is, getting in the tracks. It's interesting, she was outside of the tracks on that first hill.
That is interesting, because often the ice there in the middle, if you have fragile waxing under your skis, that can help rip the wax off the base of the skis, but clearly Svan had a plan from the warm-up that it was faster outside the track.
Yeah, I am interested to see what tactics some of these top teams choose to do. Svan and Matintalo of Finland, probably the strongest on this first leg. Interesting to hear Decordo mention the wind, and we can see that around the course, just how it is. Considering there's not a lot of people, I think it's quite narrow though, Mike. They've just got the 2 tracks there because we've got 2 legs of classic skiing and then 2 legs of skating after, so they've cut the track in half essentially to make room, and considering there's only 11 people, it feels like they're fighting for space a lot there.
Well, you know, and then Lundsvan going into the middle of the track, which didn't allow any room left or right to her, because as you see, it's quite narrow, the spread between the 2 tracks there, but I think they will now, from here on in, stick to either one track in single file as it gets faster, or side by side as we're seeing now. And this is the Bergsteig, up to the high point, up to, what is it, 843 meters, I think I'm correct. Yes, 840, that's above sea level. There's the stadium in the background. That's where they started only just under 2 minutes ago, so you get a sense of how big this climb is, the first climb.
Yeah, then the course, Mike, slightly different to yesterday. We've got 2.5 kilometre loop instead of a 3.3. So after this high point yesterday, there was quite a long downhill with a couple of sharp turns, and we still have a downhill, we still have some sharp turns, but slightly different. So I think this is going to be even tighter right-hand bends coming up once they get over the top of the hill here. So got to be very careful, particularly on this first lap as you're just getting settled into the race, just to take that corner smoothly.
Yes, I thought it would actually pick up a little more. What are we, time-wise, 2 minutes and 5 seconds, up to only 600 meters, but I think that gives that time. There's Lundsvan again, and of course you will get athletes tucking in behind. It just makes it a little narrow as they come up to this bend.
It's interesting, she is choosing to go outside of the tracks on all of the downhills, so obviously it's the faster snow to be outside of those cut tracks.
And Lundsvan, you know, once she makes a decision, she will stick to it. 56 kilometers an hour down this descent, and well, you can see the advantage there. That move, a cheeky move if you like, it certainly has an advantage. She gained a couple of meters, but she's lost them again quite quickly, as expected so early in the race.
I think it's just smart actually on these tight corners, just to give yourself a little bit of space if you can, and just allow yourself the space to take the corner, choose your line for the corner.
And these sections generally can be quite tricky, this bend here in particular, but the course has the course profile and the lead into that right hander there much more kind than it used to be. Sometimes hitting that corner at 55 kilometers an hour was quite tricky. So Germany,
someone down in the back, I think that's France, who just tried to get out of the lane there and come over to the right of our screen to double pole to Herringbone. She's broken a pole doing that as well. What a shame.
Oh no, is that the French? Is that the French coach? Generally, if there's not a coach nearby, another coach will help the athlete out.
I think she was lucky she did manage to get one fairly quickly, but that's just forget that. I don't think there was anyone else to blame but herself, unfortunately, there.
Let's have a look. I didn't actually see, so she's stepping out. Oh, and she crossed, I think she kind of crossed the skis there, and of course, you're going to slip and fall.
Yeah, and just kicked the bottom of the pole there. You can see the pole basket left in the snow behind her.
Well, that's an expensive mistake if you were to pay for them, but of course the athletes here generally are getting their equipment provided.
Yeah, I think luckily for her the pace isn't too hot at the moment, so she should be able to, she's making her way back up to the pack, so it's staying pretty steady at the moment. Lynn Svan not interested in working too hard by the looks of it.
I'm a little surprised, and of course Lynn Svan, she's got her teammate, that's the Swedish second team, that's Emma Rebohm, has worked her way up from slightly further back on the start grid up into second place. Now that's interesting. I wonder if there's been a team talk, probably has been, should we try and break free, working together, Sweden first and second team, but I don't think it's going to be an easy task to break away.
No, I think this wind will be a factor. It's pretty windy out there today, so if you're in the front, then you are doing quite a lot of the work. But I think we also have to be realistic that there's a lot of teams who just don't have the depth, who don't have 4 good skiers. So I think there will be some natural attrition even within this first leg, and certainly as we hand over to the second leg skiers. Yes,
and that attrition is the fatigue which slowly builds. I think all athletes at this pace in this field are comfortable with 5 minutes, nearly 5.5 minutes on the clock, but relentlessly. And then the second rotation around this 2.5, and then the third time. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the Bergsteig, the steepest of climbs, where there isn't really a wind influence, where Lynn Svan and possibly Rebohm may try and break the field.
Yeah, I think so, absolutely. I think this second Swedish team is actually, it's quite sprint heavy. We've got Rebohm, Henriksson, Lundgren and Dahlqvist, so 3 out of the 4 of those are more sprinters, but they can certainly hold their own after over 7.5 kilometres, so I'd be a little bit worried, I think, if I was Sweden 1, that Sweden 2 might be out looking for bragging rights today.
Absolutely, and Martin Talo for the Finnish team, well, she's a great 800 metre, she's a good track and field athlete, she's a great runner, she's got pace, and at the moment she's tucked in there behind the Swedish athletes. What about Germany's second team? That's a strong team as well. Lisa Luhrmann, the 23-year-old, performed really well at junior and under 23 championships, so she has proven track record where on the big day she can bring the results out. Tricky little section this, and slippy if your wax isn't working well. Well, this is going to be somewhat 7 minutes, just over 7 minutes into the first rotation of 2.5. So no real change, Posey. Did you expect there may be some break early? It is maybe too early on the first lap, but if you want to stamp your authority, stamp it earlier.
Yeah, it's very different tactically to the last relay we had in Gallivare early in the season, when I think the American women, who again, as we said, aren't racing today, chose to push the pace from the gun. I think they thought their best chance of a victory was to break the pack up early on. I think maybe the Swedish team, are probably the favourites, feel like they've got a bit of confidence in their sprint power and don't need to do that quite so much. But Svan is still out in front, so if I were Svan, I think I'd be thinking, well, if I'm doing the work in front, I may as well put a bit of a shift in. But she's maybe just waiting for second time up this hill, or just biding her time.
There's Ducker-Doe at the back. She broke her pole. She hasn't really come back into the race since that little incident. And it is interesting because I don't think the pace has reached its real punch level, its real pace for this 7.5 kilometre.
No, we're looking at 7.5 minutes for 2.5k. So what's that? 22 and a bit minutes for 7.5. Excuse me, for 2.5. So 22 and a bit for 7.5, which is we'll see 10k's occasionally in that length of time. So yeah, it's not the fastest that we've seen.
It'll be interesting. I think we'll see this second lap something close to 7 minutes 10 seconds. It'll pick up because the Swedish teams, Finns, Norwegians will want to spread it out. Well, that's already beginning to happen now.
Yeah, certainly. I think this second time up here, this pace is a little bit faster. Interesting. Just you mentioned the Germany 2 team looking good. So Lohmann there in front of Sauerbrey, who's gone in for Germany 1. So they've had this quite consistent lineup, the German women, with Gimmler, Hennig, Fink and Karl. So Sauerbrey's quite a new addition to that team. So a bit of pressure on her to hold the pace, because certainly Germany will be looking to be on the podium today.
And it's strange as well, you know, you enter a second team, and not that the athletes are feeling bitter or envious to be in the first team, but you know, it takes some responsibility off, so you've got less pressure, and so often when you feel under pressure, you don't quite perform as well.
Yeah, I think that is true. There's, certainly, and particularly for the German women today, there's going to be a lot of expectation on them to be on the podium, I think. So they'll be feeling that. And for Sauber, as I say, quite a new addition to that first team. I think she's gonna be really feeling the pressure. But she did have a good result yesterday in 16th, so she just has to remember that and try and stay with the pace here. It is now splitting apart as they get to this almost to the halfway marker.
And the pace slightly picking up. And just going back over the recent history of relay teams, we don't have many these days, just 2 in the season this year, but Norway have won 15 of the last 17 women's relay events in terms of World Cup, with the exception of a 3rd place when Russia won that and Sweden were 2nd. That was in 2021, December 2021. And a 4th place. Now this is the trend now. 4th place in Gällivare, that was on the 3rd of December, and this is a new patch for the Norwegian women's team, isn't it? Generally they're winning, as that stat shows, 15 of the last 17, but now Norway are in a slightly different place. It's a tough job for them to win again.
I think so. In the women's, they just don't have the strength in depth that they have done previously in the women's side, and even with that aside, that they're missing the people that you would consider to be their top players. So Heidi Feng sitting out with illness, we said that at the start. Astrid Slynn's not here this weekend. Calva's not been on great form. Theo Lindesvang is only just coming back from a lot of illness. So it's a weak team, and there's a lot of question marks over it.
It is, and you know, for them, we mentioned it, but I think it is significant that Heidi Feng, the best player yesterday, has just pulled out this morning, and Matilda Myhrvold, quite a responsibility now on second leg. She'll take the second leg, and it'll be interesting. Bergan will produce a good result on 3rd leg, and I think Tiril Udnesvang, although she's coming back into racing, I think she will be better today than her 20th position yesterday. And 2:09 behind yesterday, but I think we'll see a much improved performance today.
I think so, and I think the shorter distance will be better for her as well. I think she'll sort of cope with I think that as you're coming back, and obviously she's got a good sprinting background as well, I think that'll just suit her.
I think it will. We'll have a look at this. The pace really has picked up, and now many of the nations beginning to feel this pace just a little over the top. Again, Lindesvang, she's led from start to this point, nearly through the second lap as well, so she really doesn't care that there's a headwind. She's just bulldozing through that and keeping a very firm pace now. Interestingly, she's still opting to step out of the tracks, now back into the tracks for this section. So Sweden's first team in first place, Sweden's second team in second place, and Finland in 3rd. And significantly, they've managed to break away quite early, only at 4.4 kilometres of a 7.5 leg. 4 athletes around us, 4 times 7.5 kilometres. Yeah. Now, what's Norway going to do, Posey? So we've got Kristen Fusnes having to make decisions.
I think so. I was just wondering. Yesterday we saw quite a lot of change throughout the course because of the up and down nature, that often athletes were dropping off the back on the uphills, but were able to make contact again on the downhills. And I was just thinking they'd nearly done that there, but I think the pack isn't big enough, and they maybe were just a little bit too far behind, so they weren't quite able to do that on that last downhill. So they're pretty close here, but I don't think that they're going to make a connection again with that gap. That's Sauerbrei coming through there, bib number 3. She obviously wants to give it a go and thinks that Fosnes is holding the pace back, so she's made the move around Norway.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I felt there that Fosnes was slipping badly up this section here. The tracks in this section are quite icy, so her wax or grip wax isn't working well up this section. And I would imagine the technicians will be asking her as she skis by, what's your grip like? And they may well be adjusting that grip wax for the second leg. Of course, in this race, the first 2 athletes are in this style, classic style, and the last 2 athletes are in freestyle. Lindesvang, as it's getting steeper, it's hard to get a good grip up a steep climb like this, but she was slipping at the bottom section. You can see the ski tunnel in the background there. What's that, some 10, 11 years ago that they built that incredible facility here.
Yeah, great facility for the autumn training, just to get a bit of time on snow. Yeah, I think there's a gap as well here now, isn't there, from these first 3 have dropped.
And Fusnes, the skis are totally spread, so no grip coming through there, and that's hard work when you're Herringbone running up that steep climb.
Yeah, that is a steep section of the course, but she certainly looked like she was having to go a little bit wider with her herringbone than any of the others there. So the Swedish team's that's Mattintalo just jumping out of the tracks as well. I think it's a good move just to mirror exactly what any of the what the two Swedes in front are doing. Sauerbrey's making a big effort here to try and get on the back of these four. I think the three, she's got some work to do there, but if she can, that's going to put the team in a good position, because she's handing over to Hennig on lap 2.
So Hennig, who did such a good performance yesterday, she's a strong player certainly for the German team coming up next, but it's still 2.5 kilometers to go, so 5 kilometers achieved. It's Sweden 1, Sweden 2, and Finland with a slight gap, I think 5 seconds or so, back to the German team. Well, it's 6.4 now, and that's quite significant. Sauerbrey's trying to come back, but she needs to really try and get back on the tail of these athletes before this next climb coming up.
Yeah, I think she's got a little bit too much to do there, but if she can just maintain or even extend the gap over Norway and Germany too, that'll put the team in a really good position.
Yes, Hennig coming up next.
Just interesting on the Finns, Mike, that Kerttu Niskanen's not starting today, so she was third yesterday. Obviously a really solid all-round classic skier. Haven't heard, but I'm assuming she's also just resting up and recovering.
I think so, and that is the impact from the Tour de Ski. In 7 races in 9 days, lots of intense press interest, and the travelling, the days off weren't actually days off, they were up to 4 hours travelling. So yes, it was a busy time, and that all finished 2 weeks ago today.
Yes, but I think they still have a good team even without her. They've certainly come into some better form than early season, but with Niskanen on that team, with Mattintalo, Parmakoski, and probably Joensuu on the last lap, that would have been a really good team with Niskanen there as well.
It certainly would have. I think Kiloinen is having a good season. She was 12th in Davos. That was a strange day with the heavy snowfall. You couldn't really break away easily. Sauerbrey in no man's land now, but surviving, trying to contain the breakaway group up in front of her. There they are. In fact, that's the first of the chasing packs.
Yeah, some big gaps opening up already now. So behind Germany to Italy, Canada and Switzerland, we just saw they're 40 seconds back from the leaders already. And I think that's only going to continue to grow over the next legs.
Well, Fussness looked really as if she's in trouble coming up this climb, not able to suck in enough air. She was gasping her way up this steep climb here, and way ahead of her, the mechanical focus of Lynn Svan just ploughing on, punching hard up there. Sauerbrey just containing that breakaway. It's only dropping once. It was 6.4. We're now 8 seconds deficit. That's okay.
It's a gutsy ski from her. She actually had a very similar race yesterday. She lost the main pack quite early on and skied a lot of the race by herself, but ended up doing pretty well. So I think she'll be kicking herself that she didn't just manage to stay with these top 3 when she got away.
I think her mindset was focused on Norway here, thinking that Norway were going to provide something better, but Fussness is slipping badly up this. She's having to double pole now, so clearly she is struggling from a poor selection, I think, of grip wax.
I think so. I think it has warmed up today, and I think you can see the trees, the snow sort of disappeared from the trees a bit, so it has warmed up, but everyone else looks like they've managed here, so I don't know if she's just chosen to not put enough kick on and now she's regretting that.
Mattintalo not being intimidated, putting herself alongside the Swedes there, but now having to slot in behind them again. Just thinking, Lynn Svan at the front there, in 2021, March 2021, she had a fall. It was an insignificant fall, but it really damaged her shoulder. And then she tried to come back that December, having had a huge summer of work on the shoulder. She didn't come back strong that season. She missed the Olympics, and this is her now back to roughly where she left off on that injury, and she really has everything now. She has the sprinting, 3 in a row in terms of sprint racing. The distance is great, so she really is back at her best.
She really is, and it's great to see. I think when you're out for so long, it's so hard to keep the motivation and the self-belief going. So to overcome that and come back to the form that she was in is brilliant, and I think well deserved, just for the patience and the time that it takes to get back to that level.
Do you know, and some said, well, she may not come back. The injury was so difficult in the shoulder, especially for sprinting and double pole here today. There's a lot of mechanics up there, and and I thought, will she ever come back? But it's great to see her back at the front. I think she was just beginning to ask questions there of Reboom, come on, do you want to come ahead of me? She looks to me that Lynn Svan is beginning to tire at the front, so this pace may slow down. Opportunity for Germany to close some of those 8 seconds back into this League 3.
Yeah, I think this is good. It's good for Sauber if it does slow down. I think for Svan, she's handing over to Frida Karlsson for lap 2, so that's a nice position to be in. I think she's just thinking, well, look, as long as I stay with these three, I've done a little bit of work to separate out the whole start list. If I can just hand over with only 2 other teams with me, I know I'm handing over to someone who can do a bit more damage.
Incredible, isn't it, to be handing over to the winner from yesterday. Carlson took that race by 2.3 seconds. That was ahead of Hennig, so Hennig takes this second leg as well. Hennig will be so keen that Sauber brings this back, and I'm so impressed with Sauber in the background. She's really pushed hard here.
Yeah, I think it's just to keep pushing. She's not let that gap grow at all. It's such a difficult position to be in by yourself, but she's done an absolutely brilliant job there, and I think Hennig's going to do a lot of damage to these other teams. Svan pushing the pace now, starting to break apart from Reboom and Matintalo. She obviously had a little bit left in the tank for this last 500 metres.
Well, I just wonder if she heard me say, oh, she's beginning to look tired. I was totally wrong there. She wasn't tired at all. She was just looking back, having a conversation with Reboom maybe, and then she decided to break free. What an athlete, what a season. Very impressed with Matintalo. Johanna Matintalo in second place. She's staying there, and I think she will manage to stay within 2 seconds of Lynn Svan to the line. Until she fell. What happened there?
On the uphill as well. I completely missed that. I hope we get another chance to see that. She was you've got the commentator's curse today, Mike.
There was me saying yes, 2 seconds, and then she falls. That's unusual, stepping out of the track, but that shows fatigued legs, doesn't it? What happened?
So yeah, I don't know if the wax got caught and just sort of stuck her in places. That's the second fall we've seen today where there's been no one else involved, and just skier error, I'll call that.
And what a difference that makes. Kiloinen was going to be handed over to within 2 seconds, I think, but now look at this, the time deficit, and very hard to close the door on, of course, Frida Karlsson coming up on second leg.
I think Karlsson's going to have no interest in doing anything other than just working hard from the gun. I think she'll want to be extending that gap and proving a point after her great race yesterday as well. Look at Sauerbrey, she's just about on the back of these 2 other skiers as well. That's absolutely brilliant from her.
So impressed, and I'll tell you what, the coaches, her teammates will be impressed to have been left behind at 4 kilometres to go, to then pull the positions 3 and 2 back in contact. Great performance there from Sauber. But this, once again, is such an incredible performance from Lynn Svan. She's in great form, not doing anything that's wrong these days. Great form, great performance, 21:40 on the handover. Well, that did pick up, didn't it? First lap was 7.25. So Finland second, 10 seconds. Sweden second team, 11 seconds. And well done to Sauerbrey, keeping Germany only 11 seconds behind that lead team. So Karlsson, Posey, yes, I think she will just run away.
Yeah, that's some decisive looking skiing there, isn't it? That's just the tempo and the aggression on the double poling there. I think that shows to me she's got a lead and she wants to maintain it.
So for the back at the handover, Norway still not through. Now that's a really bad day for Norway. At the last point of checking, 51.5 seconds Norway were behind, and that was at 6.9 kilometres. They should be in very, very soon.
The wheels have really come up on the last after 5k, so after 2 laps. Norway were just 15 seconds behind, and that's extended to over a minute in 2.5k. So it just goes to show what can happen if you've been on the limit trying to keep up with the pace on the early laps. It can just sometimes completely break apart after.
Yeah, no, totally. It can if you're pushing yourself too hard, way above your comfort zone. But I really feel for Fosnes. It's not a great look for the historically great relay team.
There's going to be questions asked, and just on that last lap as well, we had, as I say, at 5k, Norway and Germany too were 15 seconds back, and then they had almost 30 seconds back to the next pack, but that's now decreased to just under 10 seconds back to Canada, Switzerland, Italy. So they lost so much time on those people behind.
Incredible, but now huge responsibility. Well, this is the chasing three, but I would imagine the 10 seconds that Carlson had at the handover will be extended by some 5 or 6, even more. Have a look at that. It was 10 seconds, so Carlson's taken another 9 seconds out of the chasers, and that's actually going to break their spirits.
Yeah, she's gone out like an absolute rocket there, Carlson. I think, can she maintain it? Has she gone off too hard? You can ask those questions, but she's on pretty good form, isn't she? So
yeah,
hard to see.
But you're absolutely right. Look at this. Norway have allowed so many more teams. But what about Myhrvold there on the left side, second leg? She went to bed last night thinking she was in Norway's second team, and she was going to mass start that. She was going to lead out. And then Heidi Weng not well this morning. She's been put into the first team, but on second leg. Now that's a lot of responsibility. She's got to pull something back out of this 1 minute and 8 seconds deficit.
It is. I think she's got to just be careful here. We've seen what happened with Fossner. She absolutely blew up on the last of those 3 laps. So I think for Myhrvold here, she's almost got to not even think about where Carlson is. That gap is so big at the moment. She's got to focus on where the team is in front of her and how the pack that she's in at the moment, just taking control of that and making sure it's the right speed for her.
It's tough, and I do believe the coaches will have discussed the options here just prior to a start. They saw Fusnes was beginning to really struggle, and I do think the Wags played a huge part of that. So Myhrvold will be briefed, and now it's about survival, but to try and pull time back here on teams in position, fighting for second position here, especially with Hennig there on the right side. Hennig's inspired. She's racing at home, and she came second yesterday over 20 kilometres.
Yeah, this is I think this is really interesting, because with Henriksen and Kiloinen there, I think you could have the potential for the same thing happen again, where they try and stay with the pace of Hennig, and I'm not sure either of them can match it. So you could have the point where they stay with them for a lap, but it really backfires for the next couple of laps. So it's so difficult, because you don't want to let your team down and you don't want to let the gap grow but if you don't ski your own race, sometimes you do more damage in the long term.
Well, interestingly, Myhrvold has lost some 14 seconds to the checkpoints at the top of the Bergsteig, but of course Carlson really has set an incredible early pace.
Yeah. I think we kind of all have to, there's almost races within races. We need to monitor how much time they're losing to those that next pack of 3 as well.
Now this is up the front. Great to see Carlson again. She won yesterday. She really is back to her best, and when she's in good form and no health issues, she's practically unstoppable, and I think that's what we're seeing today. Great form, great technique there. Just talk us through her technique, Posey, just the flow that she has, the ease with her technique.
Yeah, she's quite a fast tempo skier as well, so it's quite, she doesn't get the longer glide of someone like Niskanen, who we might see sort of like, taking a little slightly slower tempo, but it's fast and effective, and the double pole as well, she brings her hands up really fast and really chops down quite aggressively there.
And I think we will see a side shot on the steeper climbs when Carlson goes up there. She's very upright, the hips are so far forward, the head and the chin are high, she's getting all the air in, and a little similar, Katarina Hennig there leading now this chase for second place. How is she getting on? 23 seconds. Well, only 3 seconds lost in this second section of the track, and now it's the hillier section coming up, a descent here, the big climb prior to the first rotation of 2.5 kilometres.
Yeah, this is risky for Sweden too, I think here. I think Henriksen's probably their weakest leg, so she's going to obviously try and stay with Hennig here, but I think that's going to be a big ask for 3 laps at this pace.
So Hennig, I think Hennig is aware that she doesn't want to over push it round the first time, go into that place, the outside her comfort zone, but it's dynamic, she's purposeful. Kiloinen's there on the left side as we look down. That's Finland's second athlete, 36-year-old. She's still having a great season.
Yeah, a little slip from Hennig, but this is one of the steepest parts of the course here, so I think that's okay. And she had a really nice transition out there, the way she jumped out of the tracks and went into the herringbone and then back in the tracks again. That was really good skiing from Hennig.
It was. I'm impressed that she's being matched, and I think now that we're seeing Swedish second team Sofia Henriksson beginning to just lose the contact. That's a tough time in any athlete's race.
Yeah, and it's always the crucial point. Coaches always talk about keeping the speed over the tops of the hill. That's where you can suddenly see these gaps. So she was with them on the bottom, but then I talked about those great transitions that Hennig had. Henriksson suddenly 2-3 seconds behind there.
So coming through the stadium for the first of 3 times for these second leg athletes, still the classic style. Katarina Hennig is desperately trying to pull some time back. It's going the wrong way, but she's at least containing to a certain extent, containing Carlsson's breakaway. 27 seconds, that's okay.
I mean, it has grown a fair bit, it's fair to say, in one lap. So after the handover, Svan had given Carlsson about a 10-second lead, so Carlsson's taken 17 seconds out of them, but a lot of that was in that first hill. That
is hard to believe. Carlsson, I'd like to see more of Carlsson, but of course we're focusing on the chase here. Here is Carlsson. She must have pushed when Katarina Hennig has lost that margin to the first 2.5, then this is an incredible pace, and I think outside Carlsson's real comfort zone, so she may be backing off in terms of her pace in the second and maybe the third lap.
It's so hard. This next pack here, they don't even have sight of Carlsson, and there's something psychologically demoralising of just not being able to see that person in front you're chasing.
It's a spirit breaker, isn't it, really?
That's the word for it, yeah.
But have a look at this. I love the way that Katarina Hennig is desperately trying to bring Germany back into closer contact with the first team. Otherwise, she knows it's very much a runaway train, really, a runaway team with Ebba Andersson next on the first of the 2 skating legs, and then Jonna Sundling on the anchor leg, who's really renowned as a sprinter with her Olympic gold, 2 World Championship gold in sprinting, but she's also very good over distance.
She certainly is very good over distance as well, so I think Sweden have got to be feeling good at this stage in the race. It's almost a question for me of how much can they win by? Can they keep extending that gap on every lap? I think Andersson also, she's one that likes to push hard and work from the gun, so I think she'll be interested in pushing that on. And now Hennig looks like she's starting to take the time out of Kolonen as well.
Yes, this is a tough moment for Kilonen. She has to try and stay with this, but the tempo here from Hennig is so much more attacking than Kilonen. That is her style though, Kilonen. She's smooth, she's easy. And then Sweden's second team. Now this is troubling times, but I think she's safe at the moment in 4th place.
I think she is, Mike, and I don't think we're going to see too much of anyone else, unfortunately, apart from these first 4 teams, but at the 10-kilometre marker, the gap back to Norway has grown to 1 minute and 52 seconds.
Incredible.
Unreal for Norway to be so far behind at this stage in a relay.
Can you imagine right now on the NRK, the Norwegian channel, the commentators, they'll be going through the great history of the Norwegian teams, and they'll be feeling the pressure, I think, a little bit today.
As I said, there are people out with illness, and there are people who've chosen to sit out this weekend to recover, but the thing about Norway is usually their strength in depth. There's always people ready to step up and take it on, but at the moment in the women's, there just isn't.
Well, you know exactly that. In the men's team, you could bring any one of 6 athletes from outside the national team into World Cup racing, and they would not let you down in the relay team in the men's field. But I am surprised that the strength and the depth in Norway, of course there's great athletes out there, but I think it's worrying times with 2 years to the Olympics. They've now not got to go and look at building a winning team again. That's what they want.
Absolutely.
For the Olympics in 2 years.
And I think there'll be questions. I think when it's at a team level, you have to say, well, is it the athletes, or is there something wrong with the structure, with the coaching, with the approach, all these. So I think those are the kind of questions that are going to be asked in Norway.
But I do think for the first time in a long time we've seen some waxing issues with the Norwegian women's team, or is it both? A little more so than normal. You get the right 98% of the time, but I think Fusnes on leg 1, she was slipping terribly. Maybe that was tension in her body, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think maybe a little bit of both. I think there's been a lot of adjustments for all the waxing teams this year with the fluoro band that's been introduced recently. We've talked about that a bit before, and the new protocols in terms of getting your skis to the start. But if any team has the budget to overcome that, it's Norway.
Certainly is a great waxing team. Well, the times at the last split point, we have Sweden way ahead at 32, then Germany, and then Finland at 35. And this is Sweden's second team. No, this is KF, of course. Frida Karlsson at the front.
She looks like she's out for a solo time trial ski. There's such distance. That's Hennig just coming into shot at the back there now. So she's got so much space to work with, but she's not going to let up, is she?
Just looking for the back pose of the woes for Norway. They're 2 minutes and 6 seconds behind. Italy have just gone ahead of the Norwegian team. In fact, breaking away by some 2 seconds. What a shame.
Yeah, I mean, they've got Katarina Gantz, I think, on the second leg, so I think she's probably the strongest of the Italian team, but the strongest of the Italian team is not normally stronger than the Norwegian team, it's fair to say.
No, and the Italian team, we've got Franchi taking the third leg, and of course Dicenta, who's really coming, her strength is gaining each season we see her, and I think she will be great for the Olympics in Italy in 2 years' time. Kiloinen, I thought she might make contact on the downhill section. She hasn't, so now it's a breakaway German team for second place. At the moment, still a long way to go. We're not even halfway in this race today. So Karlsson just managing the situation. Very steep this section, and she's just spreading the skis a little, get some edging up this climb to assist her.
It is a steep climb, and I think, we've seen quite a few people jump out of the hill there. I think that's okay. It's, as I said with Hennig, it's about managing the transition. So if you need to go out of the tracks, don't lose time getting out. You've got to jump out, immediately get in the herringbone, and the narrower you can keep it, the more that your energy is going forward rather than being wasted to the side. So that's the kind of technical points you're looking for here. Yeah, that's nice again from Hennig there as she jumped out.
Have a look at the support trackside, and that's great news for Hennig, and I think great news for Pia Fink, who comes up next. Her best ever is 7th. She's had a 7th position in World Cup racing twice, but on decent form. And then Victoria Karl, the anchor leg. Victoria Karl having a sensational season. 11 years in World Cup racing. She hasn't touched the podium until this season. Incredible.
Yeah, it's going to be great for her to bring it home today. I'm sure she'll be feeling the nerves, but enjoying it as well. And she's had that anchor leg role for Germany for quite a while now, so I think she's adjusted to the pressure a little bit. She's been there at the Olympics and World Championships in that, so nothing like a home crowd, but she's got to be looking forward to that.
So Karlsson looking as she did really from the gun. Tempo maybe has dropped off ever so slightly, but you'd expect that, having put in such an attacking first lap of 2.5. Huge support now for Katarina Hennig, and they're trying to will her on to close this deficit time. It's okay, she's not losing much anymore. This time was opened up to 26, 27 seconds on the first lap, so she's containing, if you like, 38 seconds behind.
Yeah, I think the damage was done in that first lap when Karlsson took almost 20 seconds out, 17 as you say, and now there's still, that's been another 10 seconds or so, but not the gaps growing quite as much as in the initial part.
Yes, so I think that was probably Karlsson's strategy. Just make sure that the gap is up to 30 seconds and hold it at that, because in cross-country skiing that is a huge.
Yeah,
yes,
just wanting to show her authority, I think, and prove that no one's got a chance of even getting in sight of her at all there. So just the tempo, that's a great angle, as you said, Mike, just able to see that's got a little bit of forward lean, but she's so stable in the hips and the core, and that's where the power really comes from. So she's able to just transfer all of the energy down onto the ski, compress, bound forward. She's quite wide with the poles, quite interesting, I think, compared to some of the others. They're a little bit angled out, but it's very effective.
It's strange, isn't it? The technical coaches will be saying, well, there's a slight A-framing off the poles, and that energy's going upwards rather than up in the air, if you like, rather than forward up the track, but that's me being very critical. She's brilliant. And I like the plant of the poles, not too far ahead, just getting the body weight, that locked, secure body weight through the poles.
This is she's looking tired from Cologne, and you can just see it's the last time they've gone. This is the biggest hill of the course, so she just needs to get over the top and then again just work on these downhill sections. But yeah, she's looking pretty tired there.
She certainly is, and this is Henriksen. She tried to live with the pace. You mentioned it earlier on, Posey, that there's huge risk there if she tries, and she did. She survived the first lap with Hennig. There she is now, Hennig, and of course with Kiloinen, but now she's suffering. Henriksen, that's Swedish second team in fourth place. Norway now 2:21 behind. It was 2:08, now it's 2:21 through the stadium.
Great party going on in the background, Mike. I'm not sure if everyone else can hear all that noise.
But a huge amount of noise, and I love the fact that the spectators, this is the famous Oberhof, when you race up here and it's so deep left and right of spectators, it really does. They're very supportive of everybody that comes past, and that makes a difference. It takes you out of that little world of pain that you're in up this climb, up the Brooksteig. So Henriksen, are the chasers going to make a significant closure of that time? Well, it's still 1:28, and the chasers are the next of the best is Italy at 2:21, so still safe there in fourth position. Hennig trying so hard to close down, and Frida Karlsson for Sweden.
I think she's done brilliantly. I think it's hard to gain time on Karlsson when she's in such good form, but she's she's opened the gap behind her, so that's got to be good for the other girls coming through for laps legs 3 and 4, excuse me. So still good, even though she couldn't make that time up to Karlsson. I think got to be pleased with that today.
Karlsson, as did Lindsvan, stepping out of the tracks. They felt that slightly better glide outside the track as in the warm-up. The coaches will have advised them, of course.
Yeah, and the snow, I think it has warmed. It's still below freezing. It's about -2 at the moment, but I think it has been warmer, I think, towards the end of yesterday maybe, so you can see the snow's a little bit stickier, and that is when it can get quite slow in those tracks.
It is. I'm just thinking, you mentioned the party in the stadium. I can hardly think with the noise in my headset. It's incredible. But they've got plenty to celebrate, the German fans at the moment. Second place, that's a good performance for the German team, and a growing German team. Karlsson, meanwhile, double poling outside the cut tracks, back into the prepared tracks now, and again chopping away up this next climb. She was never going to let them down today, especially.
No, she was never going to take it easy, wasn't she? But she's certainly, you'd think with this sort of gap, 47 seconds, you could almost ease up and enjoy it, but she's not interested in doing that at all.
Just thinking, well, we've got a quiet patch before the handover to the freestyle. Norway won 3 of the 4 relays historically, which have been staged in German snow. And I do feel for the Norwegian team today, very much out of the race and struggling. And I don't think there's an easy path back for them. Legs 3 and 4, yes, strong athletes in Bergan and Utnesvang, but they're not going to pull anything like the 2 minutes 20 deficit back.
Yeah, I think the gaps are just so big at the moment. My main concern at the moment, Mike, I have to say, is how many teams are going to finish with being laps. We've got 3 laps per leg, so that's 12 laps overall, and usually the norm is that if you get lapped, you're pulled out so that the leading teams don't get stuck in traffic. But with the gaps that we've got here, 3 minutes back to 8th place, it's only taking 7 minutes a lap.
It's significant, and I think we will see some teams pulled out, possibly, and sadly possibly Kazakhstan. We'll have to wait and see. France had a poor start, didn't they, with that broken pole?
Yeah, I think they never quite got going again after that happened. It's a real shame, because I think De Cordoza can be a nice classic skier, but just, I think, really lost it after that and didn't quite get back again. Well,
they were hoping, France were hoping for at best a top 5 today, but at the moment they're down in 10th position, 3:36 behind. So this is the chase for Sweden's second team. It's still okay, and I think the Swedish second team athletes in freestyle, with Moa Lundgren and Maja Dahlqvist. Now, they are very good freestyle athletes. They're very good over 7.5 kilometers. So this team, the Swedish second team, could come back into it. But of course, this is the first team coming up for the handover. Now the first of the freestyle athletes, and there we go with Ebba Andersson. Andersson yesterday, well, she was up the front for a lot of the race, but had to settle for 11th position in the end, but only 15 seconds behind. Can you imagine the nerves Pia Fink is feeling?
Absolutely.
Responsibility to hold on to this second place.
Yeah, I think it's a lot. You know, Hennig's done an absolutely brilliant job there. We'll see the handover in a second as we see Andersson jumping up the hill. Look at her tempo as well. I always think she's a high tempo, but I like the way she crunches in her skiing. But she is certainly, again, they've got such a good lead, but she'll want to extend that as much as she can.
She will. It's almost deceptive when you start here. You've got that downhill section after the handover, but then you're met by the most severe hill on the track, and you have to be a little careful up that climb first time. Looked like Andersson thought, nope, I'm going to attack this from the gun. Here we are, the German team eventually just under a minute, so that's incredible. Hennig lost a little bit of time there on the final lap to Carlsen. 59 seconds deficit back to Germany's first team.
Yeah, this is really important for Fink. She's got a good gap here, but talked about this a lot. We keep seeing people blow up on the second and third laps on their legs, so she's got the time to ski her own race and ski it sensibly. I don't want to see her, going out so fast that she then the wheels come off on the second half of the course.
That is always the issue. Well, at the moment, Finland have a decent lead. It was about 8 seconds, and I think with Palmakoski now, Palmakoski looks to me to be coming back into some of her best shape, and that's always dangerous for the athletes around her. So, of course, Finland will be trying to pull some time back as expected. 1:27 behind. Germany just 59 seconds behind.
I mean, you do have to wonder what would have happened if they'd had Niskanen on one of those classic legs. I think that Karlund did a great job there, and Mattintalo had a brilliant leg on the first one, but with Niskanen, I think we could have seen that Hennig and Niskanen possibly working together to maintain, or...
I think so. And but of course, that's Niskanen clearly didn't feel good for the race today. This is going to be very interesting. There's Moa Lundgren for the Swedish second team. She can see Palmakoski just ahead of her, and I think that Sweden's second team, Moa will be trying to put everything out to just make contact with Palmakoski, but that does come at a risk.
It does, but it's a good team, Lundgren and then Dahlqvist on the last lap, so up against Palmakoski and then Joensuu, so if you balance that out, it's pretty similar. Palmakoski's stronger on the third, but I picked Dahlqvist over Joensuu on that fourth lap.
And look at this, Italy in 5th place, so it's Sweden 1, Germany 1, Finland, Sweden 2, and then Italy a long way ahead of Norway at the moment. So this is an incredible day for the Norwegian team. Yes, a weakened team, of course it is.
Bergan's got a lot of work to do here.
So Moa Lundgren, you can see already after this is just 2 minutes of racing and 2 minutes and 5 seconds of her race, and she looks really exhausted. So she has tried to contain Palmakoski, but it's not going her way. Norway 3 minutes and 10 seconds down. Switzerland now handing over. The Swiss team will be chasing or trying to chase down Norway, and the Swiss team had some changes as well. Juliana Vero having to step in quite late for Kalen. So some health issues or fatigue issues in most of the teams actually.
Yeah, quite a young team, that Swiss team. Fairly young team, out for experience, I think, today. And what an experience it'll be being that close to Norway. It's probably not what they're used to in a relay.
Definitely not. Canada going through now, 4:01 adrift in 8th place. But here we are at the front of the race. It's Ebba Andersson, almost skating to the rhythm of the music. I wonder if that's in her mind.
She's out for a party. She's got such strong skate too, this technique when you're poling on both sides. She's able to do that much higher up the hills than a lot of the other women on the tour. And
this hill, you have to respect this climb. It is a steep climb. And then this becomes a gentle, that's the high point, just dropping back now for some downhill section before the final climb and the first rotation of 3 of 2.5 kilometers. Now, body language, this is Pia Fink, second place. It was 59 seconds at the handover.
She's gone off hard, Fink. I think the home crowds and the desire to do well for the team, she has gone off pretty hard here.
She really has, and it's about survival now. When you push the pace to try and hold on to Sweden, it's not really possible at the moment today. Ebba Andersson looking very much back to her best form, and quite honestly, when she's at her best form, she's very difficult to beat.
Yeah, Fink's actually pulled 7 seconds back on Andersson. I think she's gone too hard personally, but we shall see. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Very surprised. I'm impressed, but I'm very surprised.
I'm a little bit sceptical of that. I think she's possibly got a little bit carried away at the start, but we'll see. It might be the opposite. Andersson's maybe thinking, well, I'll take it conservatively because I know I've got some time in hand.
It's interesting to push so hard, because certainly Ebba Andersson out front is not on a Sunday stroll. She's definitely not. She's pushing hard. So Pia Fink must be absolutely in the red zone now. Parmakoski, with her great experience, her depth, 15 years of World Cup racing, I think she'll pace it just right, and we'll probably see a very strong third lap for Parmakoski.
I think so. I think she'll take it much more steadily in here. I think she knows she's got a lot to do even to get back to Germany. The gap was 40 seconds at the handover, so that is a lot of time to make up, but I think she'll have in her mind she could do that, but she's got to do it steadily.
Yes, Parmakoski has, it was 128 and she was actually 139, so Ebba Andersson maybe is taking it slower or more balanced than we maybe thought.
It's hard to tell if she's slower or Fink's gone off like a rocket and is going to pay the price for that. I hope not, because I don't want her to let that team down, but I just know, it's so easy to get carried away when you've got the crowd there, when you're in second place and you want your team to do well.
So Pia Fink at 53, it was 59, very impressed as she's putting everything out there right now compared to Ebba Andersson, but still comfortably in second place. So this is Italy, Team Italy, Francesca Franchi coming towards the stadium, beginning to close in on the stadium. Now Parmakoski, it was 139 at the handover, so 128, some 9 seconds pulled back on Andersson. That's got to be a healthy psychological boost there for Parmakoski. Let's hope we get the camera up to the front again. Just have a look at the body language of Ebba Andersson. Has she gone full pace? Is she holding back a little? So Mora Lundgren, 149 at the handover. She was 139, so she's pulled 10 seconds back. It's quite interesting. So the three chasers have managed to pull back some 8 to 10 seconds actually.
Yeah, but the gap between Finland and Sweden too has grown. So Parmakoski sort of changed her, solidified her position in third place. And I think Parmakoski of these three chasers is, as you say, the most experienced. She knows how to pace it well. She's not going to get carried away. Interesting that Andersson having a look at her watch. I wonder if that was checking the heart rate or just seeing how she's getting on there.
Do you know, her brain will just be flickering. Okay, I could push 5 beats per minute harder. I could push 8 beats per minute harder. She's analysing all of that right now at 56.7 kilometers an hour. The camera shot we saw there of Pia Fink, Posey, you mentioned that you thought she was way over pace. For me, those facial expressions look absolutely tortured and that she's in her red zone. So this is Team 6, this is Switzerland, and it's Marina Kalin. Her sister was going to start on leg 1 but pulled out this morning, and Vero had to take in the responsibility. Now here's Norway's chase, Posey. What can Bergan do? Can she pull anything back in terms of positions? She's got a huge amount of work to do.
She does have a lot of work to do here. Francie is a good skier as well. Francie had a top 10 in the World Championships last year in the 10k skate. So normally I would think that Bergan should be able to pull time back. But if Francie skis to her potential, then she can maintain that gap as well. And it's still staying steady at 25 seconds from Italy back to Norway.
Now looking at Ebba Andersson here, she does feel for me that she's on her full, she's up to full pace now, but interesting, it'll be interesting actually to see this time check to see if they are closing down now.
Yeah, it feels fast but controlled is how I would describe it. She certainly looks like she's working, and look again, the gaps to Germany had decreased. Pia Fink had made a little bit of time up, and now that's growing again. Fink again, Andersson's just able to maintain and ski a steadier race. Fink just pushed it right out of the start like a rocket.
And have a look at Nora Lundgren. She was so much closer to Finland, just looking at my notes. Yes, so she's really dropping back now, so she maybe has pushed that first lap far too hard. Here's Ebba Andersson at the front of the race.
Yeah, looking good, isn't she?
Yeah, very balanced. I love the way the transfer there, compression, it's smooth, there's no wasted up and down. Yes, the upper body is dropping through the poles there on first pole impact.
I do have to wonder how this race would have turned out if the Americans had entered the team. I think it's a shame, isn't it, that they're not here today. I think with these gaps that we've got for the podium teams, the Americans could have thrown something in there into the mix. So.
They would have spiced this up. Well, it's spicy enough, but they certainly will have been chasing. And well and truly, I wouldn't be surprised if they would even be up at the front, just going for that survival mode.
Yeah, I think they had in Gallivare they had a new tactic where they put Diggins and Brennan on the classic laps, so they went hard early on to try and get a lead, and had they done the same, I think they would have been in the mix, and then that would have affected the sort of choices and the pacing of the other teams. So it's a little disappointing, I think, when teams choose to sit out these relays, because it's important for the World Cup that people show up and take part.
It is, and a lot of the time the relays grow your status if you can stay on the tail. If you're learning your trade and you can stay pace-wise with the big names, you feel a little more confident.
Yeah, and it was a huge deal for the Americans when they got their first relay podium 10 years ago, and it's always been a big aim of theirs, so it's interesting to see that that's kind of fallen by the wayside a little.
But I can understand it, if you have your two key players are tired, and then we've got Gomes coming up next week, another 3-day weekend of intense racing where the individual points really count. So yes, there's a lot at stake in team points here, but it's a long season, and we're just over halfway in terms of the overall individual World Cup.
Yeah, there's a lot of racing still to go, so I do understand it. I just think it's we need to look at the scheduling and the calendar. Is it worth putting in a relay if teams aren't going to enter?
Yep, totally understand what you're saying there. And we're still Germany at 57 behind Finland, chasing at 129 behind Sweden, second team dropping a little to 204 behind, and Norway down to 312 now. I say down to 312 now behind. They were 310 behind, so dropping 2 seconds. But that's okay for Bergan. She's running at the same, or moving at the same pace as Ebba Andersson. So that's 20 kilometers complete.
Yeah, I think Bergan will be desperate to, there's 3 minutes, there's no way she's making that up, but for a bit of credibility, they want to climb up a couple of places, get in front of Italy, for sure. Can they take on Sweden too, get into fourth? I think that's quite a big ask with the gaps they got at the moment, but that's what they've got to be thinking at this point.
They absolutely will be. Well, Ebba Andersson on her final lap. Now let's see the body language. Still, as you mentioned, she can skate too. This is where you're double pulling on each individual leg, compressing, getting all your body weight through that edge of ski. She's strong.
She's so strong. Just that normally often you see the skiers when they're always having to grind it out, they just change over to keep the momentum, but she's able to keep that rhythm going even with the amount of strength it takes.
And I think that Pia Fink is having the outing of her life in terms of relay. That's
yeah, I've questioned it, but actually, do you know what? She gained some time. Andersson's taken that back again, but it's not. She's got to get around this next lap and maintain it. But if she can keep the gap where it is, I think that's a respectable outing, as you say.
I think it is. And it's matching up with Palmakoski and of course those behind her. It's a good pace for this track. Parmakoski 1:27, so still that 30 seconds to make up to Germany. Let's have a look who's next. Is Yasmi Joensuu, the anchor leg for Sweden, but that comes up in 1 lap's time. And it's a lonely race, isn't it? There's no contact, so you've got position 1 as a very isolated, lonely race. The chaser, Germany, isolated by 30 seconds, a minute at the front, 30 seconds behind. This is Parmakoski, and then we're looking at another full, what is it, close to a minute back to Sweden's second team. Well, look at that. So some 40 seconds there. So yes, very isolated. And then we've got some chasers behind. So Italy, Norway not making much impression on chasing down Italy. Switzerland are in there, then Canada, Germany's second team, France, Kazakhstan at some, well, that was further back down the track. Kazakhstan has slowly been caught up, I'm afraid.
I think they're going to not get too much further, unfortunately, are they?
They're not at 6:22 behind.
Yeah, and I think it was seven minutes or so a lap just for the classic. So on the skate here, as it speeds up, it's going to be even quicker.
It certainly is. So relentlessly and lonesomely, there goes Ebba Andersson.
I think I'd like to let Kazakhstan finish. They've shown up for every relay, every event. You know, they're at the back of the field, but they put a team in, and I think it's important to do that, to show up. So I'd like to give them something, but I'm not in charge. So
yeah, a lot of credit. The biathlon team from Kazakhstan as well. They're at all the events and they're learning. You can't learn if you're not there. So they're learning. They're taking the pain of being last and learning from that as well. That's Italy coming.
That is Kazakhstan on the verge of getting lapped, unfortunately, I think. So.
Already, I thought they might survive to the handover, but that's unlikely now.
Shame for their last skier as well. She doesn't even get a start.
And it's a lot of resource, you know. You're putting the wax, expensive wax. The team's out preparing your skis to not finish. It is tough. It's a tough place to be, but that is life in sport. Ebba Andersson just punching so hard. You can see some debris from the wind blow earlier on the track, but it's not really affecting the skis.
No, she's looking good still, so I think she's paced this perfectly. I think, as you say, Finks had a great race. She's not, Abramson hasn't been able to take too much more time out of anyone else, but also she hasn't needed to. That gap they've got is so comfortable right now, and when you're handing over to Jonas Sundling on your last leg, you got to feel good.
Absolutely, and you know, when you've got a minute cushion in any relay race, it's a luxury, and to have achieved that so early on in the race is quite incredible. So Sweden have a fantastic quartet for the relays. And what a team it is. It is the team of the moment, isn't it? Sprinting, distance, they're there all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as you say, that's Sweden too. I think Lundgren is having a bit of a hard time here, but with Emma Ribom and Maja Dahlqvist sitting in that second team as well, it's such the depth that we talked about being lacking in the yeah, there we go. That's Kazakhstan out of the race. That's a shame.
Angelina, well, what a shame. Shogaya, just that's her day over. That's the Kazakhstan team's over. That's the position they will finish in as they have finished now. So the next athletes, this is where we need to look now. For Sweden, it's Jonas Sundling, and she will, I'm quite sure, hold her own. And we saw a little view there of Victoria Karl taking the responsibility of anchor leg for Germany. So Ebba Andersson coming up towards the 22.5 kilometer and final exchange as she comes through the stadium. Still punching away there, dropping her weight through. Now it becomes steeper. Lead side on the left side, skate one.
Yeah, and then she's got a nice tempo when she does go to skate one. Keeps it nice and fast and light. Here comes Pia Fink. She is still looking good. I have full credit to her. I was very sceptical that first lap she did. But she's done well. You can see Parmakoski in the background there, but she's kept that lead, and the skiing still looks purposeful. You know, she's got a nice tempo going on there. You can see as skiers get tired, the head drops, the shoulders drop, but she's staying in good form.
Very impressed, and you mentioned that pace is brilliant. So Pia Fink, she went through a bad patch in her race, but she's managed to contain and she knows full well that Palmakoski is chasing and trying to close down.
So Anderson's only taken 5 seconds out of Fink now. Fink from the handover. So she started 59 seconds in front. That's only going to 104. So that is brilliant skiing.
So Palmakoski 130. Well, she's pulled back something, but it's not huge. Let's be honest. For the final leg, Jasmi Joensuu for Finland has still a huge amount of work to put into this race. So this is the third and final exchange coming up. So the great Ebba Andersson, what a leg she's had, handing over to Jonas Sundling, Olympic gold or World Championship gold twice in terms of sprinting, but her recent form in freestyle is brilliant as well. In fact, classic freestyle, doesn't matter, Sundling can do it. Fourth in Val de Fiemme over 15 kilometers classic, and Mastard, she's got it all.
And fourth in the Olympics as well. Let's not forget in the 30k. So just missed out on the podium in the longest distance as well. So that was largely down to the fact she was able to stay with it and had a good sprint finish there. But you know, to be in contention after 30k, so a lot of these sprinters are turning into pretty good all-rounders as well.
It seems to be the way it's going, and of course more money to be made in terms of the overall World Cup score. So this is Jonas Sundling on her first of 3 laps of 2.5, going up the Bergsteig, the steep climb for the first time, 43-meter rise from bottom to top of that climb. So 106, great leg there from Pia Fink to hand over to the great Victoria Karl. This is her patch. This is where she learned her trade in terms of cross country. Went to the school just up the road there, education and sport, and she is chasing now. She's got a lot of work to do, 106 to try and pull Sweden back. It's extremely unlikely, but it looks like she's trying.
I think she's going to give it everything she's got out there.
So this is third place. Have a look at this. 132 behind. And of course, Jasmi Joensuu really needs to put it all out there. She wants to take Finland from third up into second. But a lot of work to do. And that's a tough journey when it's Victoria Karl that she's trying to close down on.
Yeah, I think Karl's going to... This is so much about pride for her, isn't it? Just to be on her home trail. She knows these so well, and with the crowd behind supporting her. Yes, and just missing out on the podium yesterday as well, of course.
I thought she did great yesterday. I thought she'd lost a little bit of her form, which she displayed in, of course, December. Here she is, but a family alongside, they're all there, and that may lift her spirits today. Now, I think Joensuu's brief would be get out there, give it all, try and get those 30 seconds back, or close to 30 seconds back. What is it, 26 seconds back she was. So this is Sweden's second team, just on hand over there, and they're 2:31 behind now. Just trying to find Norway, how far back they are at the last point of checking. Still 3 minutes 10, and they've actually just moved ahead of Italy. So psychologically, Italy passed them, and now they've captured Italy again. So they'll be chasing down Sweden's second team, but very unlikely to pull all of that time back.
Yeah, I think they have made up a lot of time on Sweden too, actually. I think that's as much down to Lundgren dropping back slightly but Bergan's done pretty well there. I think it's probably going to get lost in the context of the team result overall, but Bergan's had a decent leg, so she got handed over 3:10 behind, and she's coming 3:13, so she stays steady with Andersson there on that lap.
She has Antira Udnesvang back to racing. She was going to come back in December. Great to see her back now. Yesterday was okay in a 20th position, 2 minutes 9 seconds behind, and I think we'll see a little better Antira Udnesvang today, but it's going to be a tough call. She's going to be asked to pull so much time back. She'll try and pull some of that time back.
Yeah, I think 45 seconds up to Sweden too when it's Maja Dahlqvist that's a lot to ask of someone coming back from illness and injury, but I'm sure she'll give it her best.
It is a huge amount to ask, but yes, she will. So this is out front, having a look at Jonas Sundling on the flatter section. 24.4 kilometers about to be completed, and the final leg, the anchor leg, the all-important anchor leg. And the reason that Jonas Sundling was put on this anchor leg is because of her sprint. The final 50 meters she'll match anyone, and Sweden put her there thinking this could be tight with America today, with Finland. with Norway, but it hasn't turned out that way.
It's been an absolute runaway event, and Sweden all winter have been the strongest team in terms of depth on the women's side, but this, even by their standards, this is a dominant display.
It's a complete breakaway from the gun. They showed their strength. Well, it wasn't quite from the gun. First leg, Lindsvan slowly wound the pace up, broke the teams away, and found it quite an easy task in the end.
It'd be interesting to know what the team discussions and the team tactics were before the race for Sweden. Was it let's just put the work in and break it instantly, or did they say to Svan, you don't need to worry too much, you're handing over to Carlsen?
Yes, it would have been interesting to hear. Maybe we'll see Jonas Sundling just back off a little at the front. So the time at exchange, just getting confirmation of that. Germany were 106 behind. Victoria Karl, without a doubt, is going for this. Absolute strength. So yes, 106 behind at the handover. And that's positive. So pulled 5 seconds back to this point. And then chasing her is Yasmi Joensuu. And the time difference there was 26 seconds. And I think it's running much the same. So nothing gained, nothing lost. Or nothing significantly.
Yeah, but I think that's the smart way to do this. I think sometimes when you are on your own, it just makes the tactics a little bit different. You don't have to think about the pack around. How can I get from A to B as fast as possible? So you can maybe take it a bit more evenly than if you're trying to work with someone else's pace.
Yes, it seems very much that. So Joensuu has lost 10 seconds, so the chase really isn't on. Just containing that third position. Sundling just heading out on her second lap, and 108.32 is the time. And Comfort, she's been given all the split times. Germany, she knows, is still a minute and 1 second at the last checkpoint. So
it's a little warm down for her after the weekend of racing, isn't it?
Sundling might be just backing off a little now, but she will in case she falls. We've seen a couple of falls on this track, especially yesterday, but it's unlikely. Victoria Karl knows the headwind here. She was tucking low, free skating there. Now back into the double pull leg action in skate 2.
Nice from Joensuu there as well. Still just, as you say, staying pretty consistent, and you can see a ponytail flying in the wind there. Just gives an indication of how hard that headwind is they're skiing into.
So psychologically, Victoria Karl has now pulled another 2 seconds back since the last split time, but 59. It's not breaking massively into the lead time.
She's got a lot of work to do. I think something disastrous has to happen for any changes here. But as you say, you never know. Things do happen unexpectedly.
I think the biggest unexpected change, going a long way back now, where was it? Val de Fiemme, the World Championships there in the 90s. I watched it on telly actually in the 90s, and trying to think, Sweden were ahead by some 15 seconds, and it looked just an easy run into the stadium. Then all of a sudden, blood pressure problem for Oscar Brandt, I think his name was, and he had a collapse. He had a complete drop. He got back up, and he could only just glide to the line, but he went from first to third or fourth in that final 500 meters.
Goodness.
And that has happened in Batham as well, actually, in Popjuka for the German team. So, but that's very unusual. 2 incidences in 40 years that I know.
In your 40 years of experience.
So it does happen, but extremely unusual. And let's hope nothing like that happens today. So Victoria Karl for the second time, and up the Bergsteig, which she knows so well. And it must be brilliant to live here or live near here, just down the road in Jalamelis, and come up in the summer months to just clip onto your skis, go into the snow tunnel and just feel your technique in terms of underneath the snow here, there's roller ski tracks, clip your skis on, and just compare both winter skiing, summer training for it. It's a great advantage having that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Sweden's second team heading out on the second last lap as well.
This for me is a call for 4x5 kilometre relays. I think the shorter distances keep it tighter in. I think it helps the smaller teams be a little bit more competitive. We've seen it before in the mixed relays we've had earlier last year, and I think there's one coming up as well later on. We did 4x5. It's more fun, it's more exciting. The mixed relays as well gives the smaller teams more chance to be competitive. I think that's the way for me these relay events have to go.
I understand when they decided to have the same distances for men and women, so they've dropped men down from 10 kilometres to 7.5 of course, but still keeping the 10 kilometres for the majors, the Olympics and World Championships. But no, the 4x5 for the women, for me, I thought was great, and it kept teams, smaller nations, alive and kicking and able to take part. Don't like being critical at all, but yes, 7.5 kilometres, you need 4 very strong athletes, and not many teams have the luxury of having 4 very strong athletes.
And I'd actually love it in the men's as well. I think 5 kilometres is a really exciting distance for the men. They don't do it too often. You got to go out hard and fast. It kind of brings some sprinters into the mix as well. So it would be, I'd love for men and women to do that 5k distance.
Me too, and of course GOMS, the mixed relays next weekend. It is 4x5, so that will be sparky and absolutely fun to watch without a doubt.
And I think, as you say, just with the mixed relays, there are some teams who maybe don't have the depth to have 4 female and 4 male athletes, but they can put out a pretty good mixed relay team, so it brings a little bit more teams into the mix, a little bit more sort of more question marks, and a bit more obviously great to see Sweden win by so much, but it's nice to have a little bit of drama.
We love drama, and you never know, Posey. Still, what are we on now? It's just over 3 kilometres to go, and drama, well, let's hope there will be something dramatic. Have a look in the background there.
She is making this time up. I think that may be because Sundling's maybe think she's got it in the bag. The gap was 1:06, and it's close to 43 seconds at the last checkpoint. So she's taken 20 seconds out, but I suspect that Sundling's got quite a lot in reserve here.
Here's our drama coming up now. Well done, Victoria Carl. This is she just hasn't stopped with that focus, the punchy technique, and well, let's have a look at the time. It was 43, did you say, for the back? This is impressive, let's be honest. Jonas Sundling won't be quaking in her ski boots, quite like shivering with fear, but
I think she'll be getting a kick from the Swedish coaches, possibly, as she goes through. It goes to 38 seconds.
This is significant. Now, Victoria Carl may well be putting Sundling under pressure. It's Sundling just containing that lead. We'll have to wait and see with 1 lap to go.
I think she'll be getting some splits as we should be seeing Carl in the stadium, Sundling in the stadium pretty soon at that 27.5k marker. So she'll be certainly getting some feedback from the coaches, and they'll be saying, hey, we know you've got something in the tank. Now's the time to use it.
Well, let's have a look at body language up front from Jonas Sundling. I was going to say tucking low, but free skating there. She was still body attitude quite high. I think she's suffering, Posey. I think she's tired. I think she's struggling. Yes, there's a headwind here, struggling a little. And 38 seconds back.
I think she's got a little bit in the tank here, but yeah, I think they're certainly still looking on, but maybe a little bit anxiously. That's the German girls. They're seeing that gap grow. It's always good just to have that bit of hope. But I think Sundling's got to be, I think she's just got something left there. But it is different when sometimes when you are out in front and you almost start off too relaxed.
Yeah, this is interesting. The mouth is wide open. The expressions for me are a little pained. Now here we are. But Victoria Carl has pushed so hard. She's keeping that tempo going, but it's still a huge deficit.
I mean, she's done, I have fair play, she has done absolutely brilliantly to go from 1:06 to, what's this going to be, about 30, just over 30 seconds here?
Well, so it was 38 at the last point of looking. They're getting hopeful, but I think everybody realistically realises that in 2.5, it's extremely difficult to take 35 seconds off unless Sundling is really beginning to suffer. Jonas Sundling, let's have a look at Sundling next. Well, this isn't Sundling, this is Jasmine Joensuu for 3rd place. Finland safe and secure really in 3rd place.
Yeah, just having a look at some of the splits behind as well. There's not too many teams that are anywhere near, I have to say, but 25.8. Norway are just extending a little bit that lead over Italy in 5th, but not making up any time on Sweden 2. So I think Sweden 2 are looking pretty good as well in that 4th position.
So Germany, let's have a look. It was 101, then 59, 44, 43, 38, down to 35. Well done, Victoria Karl. This is a punchy performance. Now let's have a look at Sundling. Yeah, she's got all the strength there. Basically, by the time of this, the Bergsteig, once you're up there, she's safe. It's an easy section of track left to the finish line.
Yeah, just got to be careful of these downhills. I think you could afford to be a little bit conservative on the downhills. You don't have to take any risks on the corners. We saw the speed of those corners on the first laps with the classic skiers, but she can be a little bit more sensible of it. She's a brilliant skier anyway. We've seen in the sprints you have to have that sort of track craft and ability to change position really easily, so we know she's got that.
She certainly has. Victoria Karl, what a punchy performance. To hand over with a minute, what was it, a minute 3 seconds, a minute 1 second, and to realistically think it was possible to close any of that down. She's really taken it on board, and she really is attacking.
I think may get another split in a second here, because she has closed it down even further. I think she doesn't have the time left quite to do it, but she has.
There she is.
She's in sight, and this is the first time in a while they have been in sight.
Come on. Sundling definitely really pressed hard up the Bergsteig, and probably knowing full well I need to really keep this work rate up the climb, and then I'm fairly safe. But anything can happen. Sundling, we didn't see her come down this section. That was the only tricky section. Here she is, safely around the last of the technical sections, really. So now the track from here on in is quite simple, back to the finish line.
Yeah, there's a few uphills. There's a little bit of chance for Karl to make some time on, but it's a brilliant ski. She's made 40 seconds up, I think, almost to this point in time. So absolutely fantastic by Karl, but still a little bit to do.
Yes, I'm just thinking it is a real new world order in women's relay. When they won, of course, on the 3rd of December, that was Sweden's first win for a very long time. In Världscupen on the 22nd of November 2009. So they really have put it together. Incredible stat that, since 2009, so now 2 in a row for Sweden. Of course, that was different in terms of Olympics. They have won at the Olympics within that time, Sweden.
And there have been, speaking of Olympics as well, there was the Sochi when the Norwegian women team were at the strongest they've ever been and still somehow managed to finish off the podium in 5th. So surprises happen and they're not always there, but I think that was a disaster from another point of view of how did they end up so far back, whereas this time is, where are our skiers and who can we put in?
Well, that day was incredible. It was so warm, plus 11. It was a waxing day. How they got it wrong, I will never know. This, sometimes when you get do all the analysis, you get over complicated, and it wasn't really that easy to get it wrong. Yeah. So that was the issue that day, from what I understand. Here is the race leader for Sweden. It's Jonas Sundling.
That is incredible.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely amazing.
She's beginning to panic now. Sundling is really suffering. Sometimes posing the impossible, but it's unlikely. I'm so impressed with Victoria Karl.
It's absolutely brilliant from her.
She's intimidating. She's having the race of her life around here at home. And to even chase down a minute, taking it down to 18 seconds. Oh, if only there was another half a lap further to go, Germany could actually take this one.
To have the self-belief as well to take on that gap, you could think, oh, well, this is my home crowd, I'm going to just enjoy the atmosphere and soak it up. But to actually to give it a go and to properly believe that you could make up that gap is phenomenal.
It's phenomenal. Jonas Sundling is really struggling up here, but she knows full well her brain is telling her, just get to the top of this hill, then it's an easy run for home. And incredibly, Victoria Karl, 1 minute 1 second, over only 7.5 kilometers total distance on this anchor leg. Oh, I'm so impressed with her performance today, but There's the final climb, and let's be honest, it's a very simple descent now down and into the stadium, but Sundling really had to dig deep there. She struggled, she's tired from the Tour de Ski, the busy main event of the season, but it looks like 2 in a row for Sweden here in Oberhof. Well, that was very strange final lap there for Jonas Sundling. She looked a little tired. She did press a very hard first lap just to keep them away. But anyway, at the end of the day, it's Sweden. What a quartet with Svan, Karlsson, Andersson and Sundling. 2 in a row for the Swedish team. And it looked very easy for most of the race.
She's worked as well there. We thought that she was maybe taking it easy, but she's put in the effort. And Karl, leg of the day, absolutely ski of the day.
Fantastic leg here for Victoria Karl. She will be the hero of Oberhof without a doubt. From 1 minute down to 17.5. Jonas Sundling just wants to be left alone, but they're dancing around her. They knew she was dying on her feet. She was suffering terribly out there. And congratulations to Germany, 2nd place. And Victoria Karl, what a legend. She never doubted it that she could at least put the Swedish team under pressure. Sundling really felt the pressure at the end there. How strong you were. She was extremely strong. That was like a bit of a surprise. Oh, how strong you are today. Of course she's strong. She's at home. Well, that was the excitement up the front, and now for 3rd place, Finland. It's been a lonely race for Finland.
Shall we a little look behind her there? She's also on the limit, I think, as well. Something's worked there.
I hope we get an interview from Jona. I wonder if the skis were gliding as they should have been. You would expect so. You wouldn't expect anything there.
Yeah, but do you know what? She did what she needed to do still, and she brought them home, but she did look a little bit worried on that last hill. You suddenly had the concentration on that last hill compared to the rest of it. She realised she couldn't afford to sort of really sit back down the finish.
And every cell in her body, her brain was just screaming at every cell in her body to just keep focused, to keep technique together up that climb, because Victoria Karl was coming. Well, Sweden, a very mature team with Mattintalo, with Kilonen, Parmakoski and Jasmi Juensu taking the anchor leg. Really, they were so far back you wouldn't have expected any real changes after halfway in this race, and that was the way it's panned out. So Finland about to cross the line for a very happy 3rd place here in Oberhof. 2 minutes and 11 seconds behind. Oh, exhausted. Absolutely. She did put the pace in, remember that first lap, and they all tried to do that, to put pressure on those ahead, and you pay for it on the 3rd time of 2.5. Sweden's 2nd team coming in now. So a strong team on paper. I thought they may challenge for a podium. Emma Ribom, Sofia Henriksson, Moa Lundgren, and Maja Dahlqvist taking the anchor here for a 4th place. Sweden's 2nd team. The team spirit always feels good. The last few years the Swedish team are there for each other, and I do like that aspect. A very successful team is always there for each other.
Yeah, great work, I think, and it's hard, as you said in the start. Maybe there's a little bit of Iron Sweden 1 or Sweden 2, but I think Sweden 1 definitely came out on top there, and good to see them all cheering for each other. So here is Norway. So
Norway 3:35 at the last point of checking. Oh, Juensu still can't stand, bless her. She really went for it out there. Great effort. And well, we all need a team to support us. So let's have a look. Norway coming in. It was 3:35, and let's be truthful. Turo Udnesveng just back to racing. A disappointing day for Norway, and they know full well that the press back